Imagine, um, imagine for a second that you are a passionate entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? Like you have just spent months, maybe even years, pouring your blood, sweat, and tears into building this really fantastic product.
Oh, yeah, the classic founder story.
Exactly. And you're finally ready to launch. But to survive in this, totally ruthless market, you make what feels like the smartest, safest move possible. You just slash your profit margins to the absolute bone.
Right.
You offer the lowest price out there, basically assuming that savvy consumers will naturally just flock to you. Like
Hmm.
you figure they'll see the deal, they'll create this incredible word-of-mouth buzz, and the product will just, sell itself.
Which is what everyone hopes for. Yeah.
Yeah, but then launch day comes,
Yeah.
and you're just staring at your Shopify dashboard, and what do you see? Single-digit visitors, 0 orders, just crickets. So where exactly did this go wrong?
Well, it goes wrong because you assumed human beings are rational calculators who just want the lowest number on a screen. But human behavior and the hidden systems that really drive commerce, they just do not work like a simple math equation.
Okay.
I mean, it's a painful scenario, but it exposes one of the most dangerous myths in business today, the fairy tale that being, good and cheap is a viable standalone strategy.
Which is exactly what we are dismantling today in this deep dive.
Hmm.
We're tearing down this idea that having a $0 marketing budget works if your price is just low enough.
Absolutely.
We need to figure out why that approach is actually a trap that just will accelerate bankruptcy and what you should be doing instead. And we've got some great sources today to help us do that, right?
Yeah, we're pulling from structural business theories like Michael Porter's competitive strategies, and we'll get into Elon Musk's foundational problem-solving frameworks too.
Plus some really wild modern market case studies. We're talking Tesla, Liquid Death, Shein, and Costco.
Right. And if there is one main takeaway we want to anchor right up front, it's this. In today's saturated market, having a low price without a structural systemic barrier doesn't save you marketing money. It literally just accelerates your bankruptcy.
Oof. Okay, so why do we fall into this trap in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, why is the instinct always to just, race to the bottom on price?
Well, I mean, it really stems from a psychological default, which is called analogical reasoning.
Okay, what is that?
So when we face a complex problem like trying to sell a new product, our brains just look for shortcuts. We look at a competitor, we see they are charging, say, $20, and we say, well, I'll just charge 18.
Right, so this is surface level imitation.
Exactly. We assume their business model works, so we just try to do a slightly cheaper version of it. But to break out of that, you have to adopt what Elon Musk and, other structural theorists call first principles thinking.
So instead of copying the guy next to you, you do what? Break it down to the studs.
Yes, you completely reject the analogy. You strip the problem down to its absolute most fundamental, undeniable truth, and you build your solution back up from there. A perfect illustration of this is how Tesla approached the electric vehicle market in its early days.
Oh, right, because back then everyone thought electric cars were impossible for normal people, right?
Exactly. The entire automotive industry firmly believed that electric vehicles could never be mass-produced for the general public.
Because the batteries were just astronomically expensive. That was like the accepted wisdom.
Right. The accepted wisdom was a staggering $800 per kilowatt hour for a battery pack. Every legacy automaker just accepted this as like an unchangeable law of physics. But Musk applied first principles.
Okay.
He stopped looking at the finished battery pack that suppliers were selling. Instead, he asked a very basic question: what is a battery actually made of?
He looked at the raw ingredients.
Yeah, he broke it down to carbon, nickel, aluminum, cobalt, and polymers. Then he looked at the London Metal Exchange to see what those raw materials actually cost on the open market, completely unassembled.
I'm guessing it wasn't anywhere near $800.
No, it was about $80 per kilowatt hour.
Wait, really? A tenth of the cost?
A tenth of the cost.
Yeah.
The fundamental truth was that the materials themselves were cheap. The bottleneck, the thing making it so expensive, was the historical, totally inefficient way the industry was assembling those materials.
Wow.
So by identifying that specific bottleneck and inventing a new assembly process, Tesla was able to collapse the cost and actually, build the market.
That completely shifts the paradigm. Because if you just used analogical reasoning, you'd look at an $800 battery and try to build one for like $790.
Which would still leave you with an unsellable, overpriced car. It's a lot like trying to learn a highly complex piece of music, right? Like a Chopin waltz.
Okay, I'm with you.
You don't just stare at the full page of sheet music and try to play it flawlessly from top to bottom on your very first try. That's analogical thinking, trying to tackle the whole finished product at once.
Right.
A professional pianist breaks the piece down. They separate it into sections, then into measures. Then they drill down to the physical muscle memory required to strike one single specific note over and over until that foundational movement is perfect.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I love that music analogy, but let me try to bring this back to that entrepreneur staring at a dismal Shopify dashboard. Because a business isn't a Chopin waltz.
No, but it is a system.
Right. It's almost like debugging a line of computer code. You don't just yell at the computer to run faster. Revenue isn't just one big dial you can turn up or down. It's a math equation.
Exactly.
If my business is failing, I can't just say, make more money. I have to figure out where the break in the chain is recursively, like revenue equals your traffic times your monetization efficiency.
Right, which is just your conversion rate plus your average order value.
Yeah. So you don't broadly panic. You have to isolate the variables. Are people even seeing the ads? What's the CPM? Are they clicking? What's the CTR?
Exactly.
If they click, are they leaving instantly? What's the cart abandonment rate? Or, maybe your traffic is actually phenomenal, but your checkout button is practically invisible on a mobile screen. You have to look for your broken note.
You have to find the specific line in your system causing the error.
But here's the problem. When people do that math and they realize their conversion rate is terrible, they completely panic. And their immediate instinct is to just pull the easiest lever they have, which is slashing the price.
Which leads into incredibly dangerous territory.
Yeah.
When we look at structural business theories, particularly Michael Porter's classic cost leadership strategy, there is a massive misunderstanding among small businesses.
How so?
Well, millions of founders think they are executing a cost leadership strategy just by arbitrarily lowering their prices and taking a pay cut. They think that's what it means.
But wait, isn't dropping prices a valid way to get your foot in the door? Like, can a massive discount act as a substitute for a marketing budget just to get some initial traction?
What's fascinating here is the psychological and systemic flaws in that logic. There are three major issues when you use discounts simply to get noticed.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, modern Western consumers are incredibly desensitized to minor price drops. If you drop your price by 5% or even 10%, they are virtually blind to it.
Oh, because everything is always on sale.
Yeah.
Just scroll right past it. It doesn't register as a real deal.
Exactly. They are bombarded with sales 24 hours a day. It does not move the needle.
Right.
Second, if you decide to drop the price so low that you force them to notice, say, a 50% cut, you trigger a psychological defense mechanism.
Wait, a defense mechanism?
Yeah, you cross a threshold where the consumer's brain immediately thinks, wait, why is this so cheap? What is wrong with it? In the human mind, cheap fundamentally equals low quality.
Oh, wow. So by pricing it too low, I'm basically signaling to the market that my own product is defective. Like, I'm destroying my brand equity before I even build it.
You are. And the third flaw is the most deadly, especially in e-commerce. Pricing is fully transparent online, right?
Yeah.
If your entire competitive advantage is being $1 cheaper than the other guy, your competitor can match your discount with a single mouse click.
Oh, right.
Then you drop yours again and they drop theirs again. You plunge the entire market into a zero-profit death spiral where nobody survives.
Literally a race to the bottom where the winner gets absolutely nothing.
And the tragic part is, while you are racing to the bottom, you are completely ignoring the invisible reality of retail operations. This is what industry analysts call pipeline costs.
Pipeline costs.
Yeah.
Like, what is eating my margins here?
Well, when you sell a physical product, there are massive expenses hiding below the surface that do not care about your discount. You have third-party logistics and warehousing your 3PL.
Right. The people physically storing and packing the boxes.
Exactly. You have freight costs to move the goods. If you want to be in a physical store, you have retail slotting fees, which means you literally have to pay the grocery store just for the privilege of sitting on their shelf.
Which is crazy.
It is. And then you have return rates, which eat margins alive because you pay shipping twice for a product you didn't sell. Plus, the ever-increasing cost of digital ads just to acquire the customer in the first place.
So if my pipeline costs are fixed, and I arbitrarily cut my retail price just to get a sale, I am quite literally cutting off my own oxygen supply. I'm basically paying people to take my product.
You are suffocating your own business. Going back to Michael Porter, true cost leadership does not mean you just decide to take home less profit.
Right.
It requires a structural advantage. It means your actual foundational operations are inherently cheaper to run than anyone else's in the market.
Okay, if simply cutting prices is business suicide for the average person, how do the famous cheap brands actually pull it off? I mean, we all know massive companies famous for low prices, and they are dominating. But based on what you're saying, they aren't just being charitable. Their low prices have to be the result of a highly advanced machine.
They are. Let's look at two phenomenal examples of true systemic moats in Action, Shein, and Costco.
Okay, let's start with Shein.
Right, so Shein is often viewed as this fast fashion miracle of impossibly low prices, but their supply chain is what makes it possible, and it is built on a ruthless feedback loop and algorithm.
How is it different from normal retail?
Well, traditional retail giants like Zara or H&M operate on forecasting. They sit in a room, look at mood boards, and try to guess what millions of people might want to wear 6 months from now.
Which is a massive gamble.
Mhm.
If they guess wrong, they are stuck with millions of ugly sweaters.
Exactly the problem. Zara and H&M regularly suffer 30% or more in inventory loss clothes that never sell and just sit in a warehouse. This is called dead inventory.
30%, that's huge.
Because they lose so much money on the duds, they have to price their successful items much higher just to subsidize the waste. Shein entirely bypasses this forecasting gamble.
Do they just manufacture faster?
It's deeper than speed. It's data integration. Shein produces incredibly small micro batches of just 100 to 200 items.
Right.
They put these items on their app, and then they let their real-time algorithms track user behavior. They track every single view, every hover of a mouse, every time an item is added to a cart.
Oh, they're using the website as a testing ground in real time.
Yes. And the moment the algorithm detects a hit, that data communicates instantly with their manufacturing floors. The supply chain scales production of that specific item in a matter of hours.
Unbelievable.
The result is that Shein's dead inventory is in the single digits. They don't have that 30% dead weight holding them down.
Wow. So if I, as an independent entrepreneur, try to match Shein's $5 t-shirt price without their predictive algorithm and real-time factory integration, the cost of my dead inventory will bankrupt me in a week. They've eliminated the waste, which allows them to drop the price safely.
Precisely. Now, let's pivot from high-tech fast fashion to a totally different beast in the physical space, Costco.
Ah, yes, the $1.50 hot dog.
Right. Costco operates on a structural advantage that relies on a completely different logic. They intentionally cap their product margin at around 14%.
14%. In traditional retail, markups are often, what, 40 or 50%?
Easily. 14% is basically nothing. It's just enough to cover the electricity, the warehouse rent, and the staff.
Wait, if their markup is only 14%, they aren't making any actual profit on the giant tubs of mayonnaise or the flat-screen TVs. Then how do they stay in business?
Think about it.
Oh, it's the memberships.
It is the $60 to $120 annual membership fee. Their real profit engine is completely disconnected from the product margin itself.
So what does this all mean? Let me try to give an analogy here for the listener. It's like Costco is an incredibly exclusive nightclub.
Okay, I like this.
And they have a bouncer at the front door collecting a massive cover charge from every single person who walks in. Because that cover charge is so huge, it pays for the DJ, the bartenders, the rent, the security. The entire overhead of the club is covered before anyone even orders a single drink.
That is a very accurate way to look at it.
So because the overhead is paid for at the door, the drinks inside the club can be sold basically at cost. But if I am a small independent bar down the street and I look at Costco's drink prices and say, I'm going to match that, but I don't have a bouncer collecting a cover charge at the door, I'm going to go bankrupt instantly.
Yeah.
Costco isn't really selling cheap products. They are selling the privilege of saving money.
Exactly. The products are just the vehicle for the membership model. That is a true structural moat.
Okay, so this brings us to a really harsh reality for you, the listener. Unless you have hundreds of millions in funding, you do not have Shein's algorithmic supply chain. And you definitely do not have Costco's massive purchasing power or membership base.
No, you don't.
So how do you survive without competing on price? If simply cutting prices is suicide, what do?
You change the battlefield entirely. You have to stop playing the game of operational efficiency because the giants will always beat you.
Right.
Instead, you create an entirely new metric for value. And a masterclass in this strategy comes from a company called Liquid Death.
The canned water company.
Yes. To understand how brilliant their strategy is, we have to look at the industry they entered. Bottled water is the ultimate homogenized, boring commodity.
Totally.
For decades, legacy brands like Fiji, Evian, and Dasani fought over literal pennies on the shelf. And they all told the exact same mild, serene stories.
Right, it's always some pristine dripping glacier in the Alps, or a lotus flower, or some whispery voice talking about purity and hydration. It's so safe.
The marketing was as tasteless as the product itself. Enter Mike Cesario in 2019. He was a former advertising creative, and he applied first principles to the market.
Okay.
He didn't ask how to make water cheaper, because he couldn't. Instead, he observed consumer behavior in a totally different context. He noticed that at heavy metal concerts, punk rock shows, and festivals, the people who weren't drinking alcohol, maybe they were the designated driver, or they were sober, looked entirely uncool, holding these flimsy, crinkly plastic water bottles, while everyone else had aggressive, cool-looking craft beer cans.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because at a heavy metal show, holding an Evian bottle completely ruins the aesthetic. So if he can't make the water cheaper or, wetter, how does he make it cool?
Well, Cesario realized the problem wasn't the hydration, right? The problem was the social signaling. So he took mountain spring water and put it into 16.9-ounce aluminum tallboy cans. Visually, it looked exactly like a punk rock craft beer or a Red Bull. He slapped melting demonic skulls on the front and gave it a wildly aggressive slogan, "Murder your thirst."
Murder your thirst for plain water. It's totally absurd.
It is entirely absurd, and that was the point. Instead of buying traditional, boring television ads about glaciers, they poured their marketing budget into creating highly entertaining, chaotic content on platforms like TikTok.
Yeah, their stuff is everywhere.
They made wild merchandise, they engaged with their audience in ways no beverage brand ever had. At one point, they took the real hate mail they received from angry people on the internet, recorded those emails as lyrics, and released an actual black metal album on Spotify.
That is unbelievable. And think about the moat that creates. Like, Nestle or Dasani cannot take their hate mail and turn it into a heavy metal album. It would completely destroy their corporate, family-friendly image. Liquid Death did something the big guys literally are not allowed to do.
You've hit on the core issue. They didn't just sell water. They treated their content and their brand personality as their actual product, and the business results were staggering.
Let's hear the numbers.
They went from $3 million in revenue in 2019 to $333 million in 2024. Today, the company has achieved a $1.4 billion valuation.
For water.
For water. And here's the crucial takeaway for anyone listening. They never drop their prices. In fact, if you look at the shelf, Liquid Death sells for a premium. It costs more than your standard bottle of regular water. They built a competitive moat out of a social symbol.
Because if a punk rocker is buying Liquid Death to look cool at a concert, they are communicating an identity to the room.
Oh, exactly.
If a competitor comes along and offers a generic plastic water bottle for 10 cents cheaper, the punk rocker doesn't care. The cheaper bottle fails the core job, which is looking cool. The identity is the moat.
Yes. Rivals cannot penetrate that market simply by offering a discount because the consumer isn't buying hydration anymore. They're buying into a specific identity.
So synthesizing this whole journey for you, the listener, the message is clear. There is no free lunch in business.
Definitely not.
Unless you possess the deep engineering capabilities of Tesla to reinvent raw materials, or the real-time algorithmic factory integration of Shein, or the massive cover charge leverage of Costco, you absolutely must stop treating price cuts as a viable strategy.
You have to step back and use first principles to figure out exactly what your unique value is. You have to ask yourself what your equivalent of the melting skull is.
Right.
Like Liquid Death, your goal should be to use unique, non-standard content and personality to transform your product from a highly replaceable commodity into an irreplaceable social symbol. If you are only competing on price, you are actively signaling to the market that your product has no other redeeming qualities.
And that leaves us with one final provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive. We just talked at length about how Liquid Death used extreme, almost unhinged personality to win a boring market. But consider the era we are stepping into right now.
The AI era.
Exactly. We are entering a world entirely flooded with AI, automation, and virtualization. We are in an environment where literally anyone can instantly generate a perfectly acceptable product, Write a clean mission statement and design a flawless logo with a single prompt in 5 seconds.
It's all becoming commoditized.
Yes. In this new environment, a cold, faceless brand isn't just boring, it is a massive liability. Operating without a distinct personality will cost you 90% of your potential profit because human beings do not want to connect with a sterile, perfect algorithm.
No, they don't.
Just look at Duolingo. They have an unhinged, chaotic, green owl running their social media. They used raw, unpredictable humanity to completely hijack user trust and attention in a space that used to be incredibly dry and academic.
It's brilliant.
It is. So as you look at your own projects this week, as you stare at your own Shopify dashboard or business plan, ask yourself, how can you inject unapologetic, irreplaceable humanity into what you're building? How do you ensure that your customers aren't just buying a cheap product, but are actually buying into a relationship? Because when you are swimming in the muddy, unpredictable waters of building a business, it isn't the cheapest anchor that keeps you safe. It's the strongest human connection.